Yeah, what's good, gang? Talk back in the video, and today, boys, we're going to be talking about the 49ers quarterback problem, um, who they're going to go with next year. I don't know if it's really an issue. I don't know what I exactly titled this video. Something to do with the 49ers quarterbacks. But before we get into this, if you subscribe to the channel to see more of my videos, I'm going to be uploading a video on the Texans. I'm going to be uploading a video for every team what they should do in the draft and free agency, their biggest holes, their biggest needs, and what they need to do, basically for next year to be able to compete a little bit more, get better. So we're gonna do that, and then also like and comment on this video to help this video get more views. So I'm gonna be doing that for every team. Like I said, Texans will be out tomorrow. Doing this video today on the Niners. I'll do a different video. I'm going through the draft order, so we're gonna start with worst all the way to the last. So we should be hopefully get each of those videos done by the time it's free agency. So yeah, let's get into this. So first things first, we're gonna talk about the 49ers before really any of the quarterbacks. So as of right now, the Niners are the number 2 seed in the playoffs, and they got a quarterback problem. Uh, they have potential to be the number 1 seed if the Eagles lose and they win. They also have potential to be the number 3 seed if they lose and the Vikings win. But if they win, they're guaranteed the number 2 seed. And if the Eagles lose, they're guaranteed the number 1 seed. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's that's so. This team has had 3 starting quarterbacks for this year. You started the year with Trey Lance, who comes in, starts the first game, gets injured in his second start, only completes like 2 drive. Then you have Jimmy that comes in, plays rough, and then he wins 4 in a row. And then he gets hurt, and then you have Brock Purdy, and they won 5 in a row, 4 in a row with him starting. They're won 9 games in a row. They're a very good team, and they're on the third quarterback. And I wanted to say I think Kyle Shanahan should be a Coach of the Year candidate. I think Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, wins it, or Brian Dable for the Giants. That's his name, right? But I think Kyle should be a candidate for sure. You don't see teams go through 3 starting quarterbacks and be able to compete. Now, Jimmy G and Trey Lance is a good quarterback. Jimmy's a good quarterback. Brock Purdy's looks like a good quarterback. Jimmy G wouldn't be a normal backup. He should have been starting somewhere. Um, but yeah, and if I don't know what quarterback goes in this team, I we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think whoever is in this offense is going to succeed because their offensive weapons are huge. This defense is awesome. But yeah, with all that said, let's start with Jimmy G. He is the least likely to be the quarterback for the Niners, in my opinion. He is a upcoming free agent quarterback. He's had injury issues. Now I remember when Jimmy first came to the Niners, we traded for him for the Patriots, and he went on that it was 5 game win streak to end the year. It was kind of crazy. It was I was so hyped. Then he comes in, has tears his ACL against the Chiefs, I believe. Comes back the next year, goes to the Super Bowl. He misses. The Niners miss an opportunity to win the game. And honestly, it was kind of in part to Jimmy G. The defense played good in that game. They had a 10-point lead, I think, going into the fourth quarter. They forced Patrick Mahomes to do turnovers, and then Jimmy had a chance to win it, and he just missed Emmanuel Sanders. And then the next year, another what the hell, injury riddled season for Jimmy G, and they kind of suck. And then they end up drafting Trey Lance. Uh so I think, in my opinion, I think Jimmy G's gone. He came in for the Niners this year after Trey got hurt, right? Um, Looked rough, especially that Broncos game. Looked pretty bad. The Chiefs game, he kind of sucked in a little bit too. Sorry if you hear my dog snoring. And then after that, he rips off 4 in a row, and then he breaks his foot in against the Dolphins early on in the game, and so he's healthy. I think he could be back by the time it's like in the playoffs or something. But I don't think we're gonna see Jimmy G the rest of the year. Um, so the reason I don't think he's coming back to the Niners is, like I said, he's a free agent, and I think there's gonna be a competitive market for Jimmy G. I think teams like the Commanders, the Jets, even the freaking Colts again could be in contention for Jimmy G, because Jimmy's a guy who he wins, right, and he plays good football. The Jets would have loved to have Jimmy G on their roster instead of Zach Wilson this year. Same with the Commanders. I think Taylor Heineke's better than Carson Wentz, but I think Jimmy G is better than Taylor Heineke. But and the same with the Colts. Like I think Jimmy, would have played better than um Matt Ryan. So I think there's going to be a competitive market for Jimmy G because what he has done and also the leadership he's shown. He Trey Lance was his replacement, and he mentored the kid. All you hear Brock Purdy and Trey Lance talk about Jimmy G. You hear the Niners players talk about Jimmy G. He's a great guy. He seems like a good leader. But yeah, like I said, I think there's going to be a competitive market, and I don't know how much Jimmy G is going to make. I don't know how much money Jimmy G is going to cost. You know, the 49ers, I think Mike McGlinchey's a free agency, so that leaves a hole at right tackle. I don't know if they're going to resign Mike McGlinchey or they're going to try to get another right tackle. They're going to have to pay Brandon Ayuk. They, and maybe another corner because I think Emmanuel Mosley is a free agency and they don't have another corner on the roster that's good enough. Sorry, Deommodore Lenoir. I think you're our weakest point on our defense. And the same with like Jimmy Ward. I think he's a free agency. You're gonna have to pay him, or bring somebody in to replace him. And you need money for this team. So that's the main reason I think Jimmy G don't come back. I think the Jimmy G era in San Francisco is done. Honestly, he's had a great memories and stuff, but the injuries have piled up, and money is going to be the main thing for Jimmy G. And I think a lot of other teams are going to be willing to pay more than the Niners are. And I think the Niners have two guys that on their roster that they like. So moving on to the next guy we're going to talk about is Brock Purdy, who I think is solid. Brock Purdy's good, 7th round, Mr. Irrelevant, Mr. Relevant now. He should be known as BCB. Honestly, he came in, played really good. I think the Niners look better with Brock Purdy in at quarterback for a simple reason that he's willing to attack the ball down the field. Jimmy G simply didn't do that. He let his receivers do all the work for him, but Brock Purdy is willing to test the defense and, attack down the field. Now, sometimes Brock Purdy does get in trouble because he does attack downfield, but he has arm limitations. He doesn't have the biggest arm. Honestly, he probably has about the same arm as Jimmy. He can't throw it the farthest, but the thing is Brock Purdy is willing to. So his willingness to throw the ball, I think, is actually deep down the field, has actually opened up the offense for the Niners a little bit. Even though his armor does limit him sometimes. They're coming off the Raiders game where, honestly, I think it's Brock. In my opinion, I think it's Brock Purdy's worst game. It wasn't terrible, but if you watch the game, there's they're in the red zone and there's Juwan Jennings beats his guy on a streak, and Brock Purdy tries to launch it up to him and just underthrows it, and so that way allows the defender to come back and play it. But I think he is solid, and I think he can win games with the 49ers. And then he's more mobile than Jimmy G. He's not a read option kind of QB run kind of guy. No, he is he gets out of the pocket, he extends plays, he's going to scramble in the red zone, he's going to scramble for key first downs, get you 4 or 5 yards on a scramble, maybe 10 yards, slide down, keep the drive alive kind of guy, He's got good accuracy. I do think Brock Purdy has good accuracy. But then he will miss, and then he randomly just misses bad. Brock Purdy will put the ball in great places, and then randomly he just misses one terribly. Like, there's a couple he just misses. I don't know why, but he'll look accurate all game, and then he'll just miss one. And the same with his decision making. Basically, he makes good choices. He finds CMC and he finds CMC. He finds his underneath guy a lot. He's willing to check the ball down. He gets it to CMC. He gets it to George Kittle. And he reads the defense really well. And he makes the right decisions. And then randomly, he doesn't. Like, he just once or twice a game, he just makes a dumb decision. Against the Seahawks, you saw him, or against the Buccaneers, actually, his first career start. They dropped the defensive tackle or D-end into a zone. And Purdy just threw it right at him, but it got called back because of a penalty. And then there's one against the Seahawks where he just throws it to Quandre Diggs, and Quandre Diggs just drops the pick. And then against the Raiders last week, he throws it up, lobs it up to George Kittle, a 50-50 ball, and Kittle didn't come down with it, and it was a pick. Not the best decision, in my opinion. But he does make good decisions, but then he randomly does one or two stupid things. I don't know. But I think, but the Jimmy, Jimmy G does the same thing. He does make stupid decisions. I think Brock Purdy makes the team better because his willingness to go deep and he's more mobile. I think that does open up the offense more than it does with Jimmy G personally, and I think that's a big benefit to the Niners scheme. Because a lot of teams would load the block. Oh my God, I can't talk today, y'all. But a lot of teams would load the box with Jimmy and make him try to beat them by throwing it deep, and he just didn't. Brock Purdy is willing to do that. Now we haven't seen him have a horrendous game yet, so he's, like I said, he's solid, and he's not doing too much. He's not game managing though. He's doing just enough. He is getting his guys the ball and letting them make the plays. He's not trying to be Patrick Mahomes and do some crazy rollout stuff, even though he does kind of for some reason. He just does it and then rips it across the middle. But as sometimes he does get himself into trouble and either makes a bad decision or randomly just misses a ball he should hit. Now we're gonna move on to Trey Lance, who, in my opinion, I think Trey Lance is gonna be the starter next year. This is why Trey Lance is a big question mark, dude. We don't know. We simply do not know with Trey Lance. We look at Trey Lance. Came in. His first career start against the Cardinals. He looked very raw. He was trying to push the ball downfield. He wasn't taking his check downs. He was running. But they barely lost 17-10. And one of those was a goal line stand by the Cardinals. Okay. Then he comes in against the Texans, like, I don't know, later in the year. I don't know if it was like week 15 or 16 or something like that. And he did throw a pick, but he looked a lot better in that game. He looked more. He looked more in the system. He looked like he knew what he was doing more. He trusted his receivers and he trusted himself more. And they played a good football game against the Texans. Even though I know the Texans weren't good. They're not good still, but that's why we're talking about him. So watch out for that video tomorrow. But he showed he improved. This year he comes in against the Bears. It's a monsoon game. Both teams struggled. The Bears got lucky. Blown coverage. Justin Fields makes a great play and finds the guy underneath, and he takes it 60 yards. It was a blown coverage. Besides that, though, the game was very it wasn't a good game from either quarterback. And then Trey Lance has to make something happen towards the end of the game, and they legit had to make it so you could see the field because it was raining that crazy. And I'm sorry, but you put any quarterback in that position, and they're not going to do good. And then he comes in. Starts against the Seahawks, and I think he throws like 2 or 3 passes, and then he gets hurt. He drives them in the red zone. They had to settle for 3. Then they get back in the red zone, 2nd and 8. I think they run a QB power, and he gets hurt, and he's done for the season, right? Trey Lance has showed he could improve, and then Brock Purdy's mobility, what it's done for this offense, just him being able to extend plays, scramble for a first down, scramble for a touchdown, extend the play, on the rollouts. Trey Lance is a better athlete. He's more mobile than Brock Purdy. I think that is clear. And then you pair Trey Lance. He is willing to take the shots down the field that Purdy is. But then Trey Lance also has a bigger arm than Purdy. So some of these limitations that Purdy has, it's not a limitation with Trey Lance. Now, the thing with Lance is he hasn't played a lot. His decision making was questionable at times. But that just has to come with playing. We have to see Trey Lance play. He started 1 season in college, basically. Purdy was a 4-year starter at Iowa State or whatever, right? Iowa State? Yeah. I'm pretty sure if I'm wrong. And then this year, we saw against the Bears, Elijah Mitchell got hurt. George Kittle didn't play with Trey Lance this year. If you watch Brock Purdy's main weapons, the guys he trusts and he throws to the most, are Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. Trey Lance didn't get to play with George Kittle or Christian McCaffrey this year. We don't know what Trey Lance looks like in an offense where he could just check it down to Christian McCaffrey and McCaffrey makes the play. We haven't seen him be able to do that stuff with those guys. So, in my opinion, I think Trey Lance, you traded up, you selected him at number 3 overall. I think he's going to be the starter because of what he does. He's got the most upside he's got more upside than Brock Purdy. I don't see Brock Purdy getting much better than Brock Purdy is. Okay, that's the thing with, and I don't think he. I think Trey Lance just brings more to the table, and I think you got to look at that. Now, in my opinion, Brock Purdy could go on a great playoff run or whatever. To start the year, training camp, Brock Purdy versus Trey Lance. That's how you're going to settle this. I think Trey Lance is going to win the job. I want, I don't want to just get handed to Trey Lance, but I want them to, and I don't want to get it handed to Brock Purdy either. I want to see them compete for the job and to start. Now, I think all we see with Trey Lance, we don't know. It's a big question mark. 4 career starts, one of those he only played 2 drives. Okay, he showed he can improve. We haven't got to see him with the best weapons, CMC and George Kittle. We didn't get to see him with that. And like I said, most upside. The thing that scares me with Trey Lance is Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan is so obsessed with Trey Lance's ability to run the ball. If you watch Trey Lance play compared to a Brock Purdy game, Trey Lance runs the ball a lot. Undesigned QB runs. Look, Trey Lance is an awesome athlete and he's a great runner of the football. But we can't use our quarterback like that. You got to look at it like if the play he got hurt, a QB power up the middle, and he broke his fucking ankle, dude. Like, why are we pounding a quarterback in with 300-pound defensive tackles and 270 DNs? It's stupid. I can tell you that much. I watched the Bears game. He did the same thing. Cardinals game, the same thing. Texan game, he did it like a couple times, but besides that, it was better. It was better. The Seahawks game, I think he ran like 2 or 3 in like 2 drives. It was dumb. Kyle Shanahan needs to get out of his head that Trey Lance can run the ball. He needs to treat Trey Lance like he is Brock Purdy and call plays where he could get him out of the pot, because that's where I think Trey Lance will be the best. If you're going to run Trey Lance, run him on a read option. Get him outside against a safety or a corner. I'd rather see Trey Lance trying to run those guys over instead of defensive tackles, Use his mobility to help him pass the football, Get it, play action rollout. Let him hit his guy in the flat or make a high-low, I think Trey Lance is a starter next year, and I think he will benefit the Niners even more than Brock Purdy has. We've seen what Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, and then I think Trey Lance could bring it even higher because Brock Purdy's willingness to throw it deep and his mobility has done a lot for this 49ers team. Trey Lance is more mobile and has a bigger arm and is still willing to throw it deep. I think Trey Lance will succeed in this league and on this team, especially if he has CMC and George Kittle he could dump the ball off to, which has been awesome with Brock Purdy. So that's my opinion. Let me know. I don't know. I might be biased to Trey. I don't know. Let me know if I'm giving a fair assessment. But I just see Trey Lance has more upside than Brock Purdy, and I think he should be the starter. But I think they should battle it out. Trey Lance and Brock Purdy are both cheap players, especially Brock Purdy. They're cheap contract guys. You could have them both on the roster. You could have them both compete for that starting job and let the best man win. Whoever's behind center, I support them, honestly. And good luck to Jimmy G. I'm 90% sure he's leaving. Good luck to wherever he goes. I hope he goes and wins. Except I hope he loses against the Niners. I'm sorry, Jimmy. But yeah, that's the video, boys. Let me know what y'all think on it. But yeah, till next time, it's your boy Tybo.
Peace.